Hello and welcome to the kitchen. Today we'll be making this delicious traditional Danish dessert called Risalamande. It's a rice porridge with almonds and then a cherry sauce on top. There's also a tradition that goes along with this dessert, that you buy an inexpensive gift, you wrap it up and place it on the table besides the dessert. And then you have put in one whole almond into the dessert, and the person who gets that will win the gift. But you can skip that part and leave out the gift and the almond if you don't want that. It will take you some hours to make this, but the actual work is probably 45 minutes, depending how much you put into it. The ingredients are pretty simple. We have whole milk, 3.5% fat, and heavy cream, 38%. Then we have sugar, vanilla and almonds. We have some cherry sauce, we'll get back to that. And we have some porridge rice, which I will explain about. So these porridge rice are used heavily here in Denmark, so everybody will know it, but out in the world I don't think it's that popular. They are pretty much available everywhere though, because of course it's not a Danish rice, we don't grow rice. It's a Japanese short grain rice. It's very sticky and starchy, and it's used in Japanese porridge and I think also for sushi, but I'm not sure it's the exact same rice. I'll have a link in the description so you can look it up for yourself if you're not living in Denmark. In Denmark it goes by the name of grødris. The cherry sauce is made from sour cherries, so it's not the sweet cherries that you normally eat. Then they are boiled and the sauce have been thickened with some starch, and they have added sugar and vanilla to it. So this might not be available everywhere, but I'm pretty sure you can find cherries in their own juices in jars like this. Then you can when you warm it in the pot, you have to do that anyway, you can add some cornstarch, some sugar and a little bit of vanilla to thicken it up and make it sweeter. And then you basically get what's in this glass. So I bought a different version here so that you can read the contents in English. You'll need 1 liter of milk, 400 milliliters of heavy cream, 175 grams of almonds, 1 or 2 vanilla pods, 75 grams of sugar, and then you need 2 deciliters of the rice. If your vanilla pot is larger than this and fresh, then it should be enough with 1. If not, you can also back it up with some vanilla powder or a little bit of extract. And now let's show you how to make it. I'll slice open this vanilla pot and scrape out the seeds, and then we'll put everything into the pot. But first we'll mix up the seeds with some sugar so we can crush them, and so this is quite fiddly. I like to use the point of the knife and then slice it in half. And then we simply drag the knife along here. Make sure to get all of it. And since we opt for good taste, we throw this into the pot. I just take a good spoonful of sugar and add it to the board, and then you can just mix this up. Don't do this with your sharp knife, by the way. That could ruin the edge of the knife. Else you can just use a spoon and crush it. That will also work nicely. So we want to crush all those little vanilla seeds, and that releases all of the flavor and aromas. So we dump all of this into the pot. Then we add our 1 liter of whole milk. And we add in our 2 deciliters of porridge rice. And again, it is very important that you use the correct rice, because normal jasmine rice will not be releasing as much starch into the milk, and it will not form that sticky goo that we want. Once we have all the ingredients, we turn on the pot at a medium to medium-high heat. You want to make sure that the milk doesn't burn and stick to the bottom. The more you want to stir, the higher heat you can use. If you don't want to stay there constantly stirring, you have to heat it up very slowly. Another thing with whole milk, you want to be careful. Once it starts boiling, it can actually foam up, and almost like a volcano, it can erupt over your cooktop. So if you see the milk starts to rise, you want to take it off the heat immediately. But we want to get it to the point of boiling. You don't have to use vanilla pods. You can also use vanilla powder or vanilla extract. But then I don't think it's necessary to add it while you cook the rice. So my milk is now starting to boil. This is where we want to be careful that it doesn't foam up. We want it to boil a little bit more, and then we have 3 options. We can either turn down the heat a bit and then just stay here and stir it for half an hour to 45 minutes. That's the fastest method. We can also take it off the heat completely and put it in the oven at 100 degrees Celsius. We just need to keep it at around the boiling point for, in that case, also about 45 minutes. Or you can wrap it in a towel and then in a blanket and put it on the bed. That will insulate it and also keep it warm. That's actually what I usually do. If you use one of the last 2 methods with the oven or the bed, then you want to open it and stir it at the 25-minute mark or something like that. So this is now boiling nicely, and I will turn off the heat and I will put it in the bed for 45 minutes, and then we will come back. You can already see that this has started to thicken a little bit, and the rice kernels have puffed up. This will be much more in the next 45 minutes. We will end up with a very solid porridge. And 1 hour later we have this thick rice porridge. It shouldn't be liquid anymore once it's done, so you should be able to stack it up like this, and it doesn't fall back by itself. And now we have to cool this down. You can either put the lid on and put it in the fridge and wait 4 or 5 hours. If you make this in the morning, then that will be the easiest. If you want to use it sooner, then you can put it in the sink and fill some water up on the side, cold water, and then you can stir it every now and then it will cool down very fast in maybe half an hour. It is slightly better to leave it longer because the rice will be even more soft, but once you've cooked it 1 hour, it doesn't make that much of a difference really. So once the porridge is cooled down, we want to whip our cream. The 400 milliliters. I'll just go by eye here and say that's 4 out of 5. And I'll use a mixer for this, but you can do it by hand if you want. And you don't want to go too hard on the cream. Maybe this is, yeah, you could use this, but you could also give it a bit more. It depends which consistency you want, but let's just give it 10 more seconds. So now the peaks here can just about stand by themselves. Here I have the 175 grams of almonds. If you want it to be completely white, then we have to boil these and remove all the skins of the almonds. If you don't care about presentation, we can just use them as is, basically. Then the final dessert will be a little more gray and have these specks of almond skin. I actually do not mind that. I kind of think it looks more interesting if it has a little bit of texture in it, but the original traditional recipe calls for a pure white dessert. So in this case, I will boil it and remove the skin. And again, this is pretty easy. You just bring a pot of water to the boil. Once it's boiling, we turn off the heat and we dump in the almonds. And now we wait. And to see if they are done, you just pick one. Be careful, they are hot. And if you can remove the skin easily, then it's done, and you just pour out the hot water and cool them down with cold water. So at this point you want to pick 1 to 3 nice big almonds that are all intact. These ones look pretty good. You remove the skin and have a look at them, and they're fine. You also want to check if they have split down the middle. If you give them a little bit of a squeeze, you want to be sure that they're not breaking. You keep these as whole almonds, and depending how many gifts you bought, you can put that number of almonds into the dessert, and the person who gets an almond will get one of the gifts. And now it will just be the tedious process of doing this for 10 to 15 minutes. A sane person will probably buy these with the skin removed already, but yeah. An eternity later, and we have some skinless almonds. Now it's again a big religion how you want to chop these. Some people want it finely chopped, other people want it very coarse. I would say flavor-wise it's best to chop them finely, but it's also nice to have something to chew on, I think. So I will take about a little more than half maybe and pass them through a chopper so they get into a finely chopped pieces. And with the rest I'll take a knife and a cutting board and chop them up medium. So I have one of these things here that I think does a pretty good job. So we just load some in, and out comes some pretty fine pieces. And when you chop the rough almonds here, you want to be absolutely sure that you don't accidentally leave any whole, because since we're using whole almonds for the gifts, that will be problematic, to say the least. The biggest mistakes you can make with this dessert is to forget to put in the almond and leave it on the kitchen table, or accidentally put in too many. I think the last one is the worst. So these are chopped. I made some finer ones here and some more rough ones here. And again, definitely no whole ones. I recommend that you just check by scooping them over by hand. And now these are ready. And now when the porridge is completely cold, we pour in our 75 grams of sugar. We take a little bit of the cream, just 1 spoon, and then we start mixing that in. That makes it a lot thinner. Add a little bit more, and now we stir more carefully. We want to keep the air that's trapped in the cream. That's basically it. So now we can just add the rest, and we add in our almonds, and then we fold everything together here. And now is a good moment to taste it. It's pretty good. I like the sweetness, and you feel the big chunks of almond when you eat it. But I think it's missing a little bit vanilla. I was worried about that when I made it, because I think the pot was a little bit small. I think actually I could have used 2 pots without making it too much, but that's always a gamble. So now you could scrape out the seeds from a second pot and put that in, or you can also use the powdered vanilla. The stuff I have here is already mixed with some icing sugar. I will add a little bit more sugar to this, and I just use the ball from the almond and just mix it up, just so there's no big lumps of vanilla getting stuck somewhere in the pot. And then we will we'll mix this in. So we do a second taste, and now that's better. So now we transfer all of this to a nice glass bowl. You can just use the pot, nothing wrong with that, but it's just more presentable in a nice glass bowl like this. And now is the time that you must not forget to put in the almond. If you have a present, you can leave it out if you don't want that part, but I recommend you don't put it in the middle, because that's where the first person will take. Somewhere random, maybe here, you can leave it in the top, or you can put it down and then just randomize it a little bit, and that's it. And now you heat your cherry sauce up in the pot. It shouldn't be boiling, just very warm. Then you would put this on the table along with the warm cherry sauce, and then people just scoop up some of the Risalamande and they add the cherry sauce on top, so that this is a little bit cool, not directly from the fridge cold, but not room temperature, somewhere in between. And the sauce is warm, so when you eat it you get both a cool sensation from the dessert itself, and you get the warm from the cherry sauce. And that is your Risalamande.